Good evening, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to PatFacts. Hey, Bonnie, welcome in. Back, back in your first place position. Great stuff. Hope everyone's having a great week. Hope you've been enjoying your music. We talked last week about just music and how it kind of motivates us and having power songs or theme songs to again help us get through some good times, tough times, help to energize us, help to mellow us out. So if you missed that episode, go back, check out last week's episode of PatFacts, and leave us in the comments some of your favorite theme songs, power songs, songs for certain moods, maybe DJs or musicians that you enjoy watching or listening to. And let's share with each other. Let's share those resources of what we're enjoying. So hopefully you've been enjoying your music and your soundtracks to the weekend. Maybe even just being aware of what you're hearing. You ever notice how sometimes the radio just seems to get it right? You're having an off day and they play that song that kind of pumps you up, or you're feeling down and they play a song that kind of matches that, almost like they know. So maybe you just be aware of the music around you and what you're hearing, what you're taking in. Hey, Nads, welcome in. And again, just being alert of our surroundings. Like we go back to the very first PatFacts, we talked about being alert and being aware and not dwelling on the negative. But that alert and aware includes our surroundings. So something like maybe hearing the music in things that aren't maybe musical, hearing that rhythm, hearing that sort of beat or melody, maybe just in something in day-to-day life, maybe a machine that runs at work, or the way the bus moves around, or some of the traffic sounds, things like that. Try to find some of the music around you. I know once I was doing an outdoor class at a park, and some of the way some of the hit systems and some of the bands and things would hit the posts that we were using as anchors, or they're running through the sand and moving some of the equipment, it created a little bit of a rhythm. And it wasn't intentional, it was just kind of working out that way. And I kind of mentioned, there's music all around you. Sometimes you just have to look for it a bit. So try to be aware, if you haven't been the last week or so, of maybe where there's some music around you and in your life. And again, really use that to enhance or embrace or maybe change, if necessary, the mood that you're feeling for that day. Tonight, this week, I want to switch from, I guess, music to movies. Tomorrow, as most of you probably know, tomorrow's May the 4th. So May the 4th be with you. May the Force be with you. It's Star Wars Day tomorrow, May the 4th. So if you don't like Star Wars or haven't seen it, shame on you. But it's a great franchise, movies I love. And I thought it was a great reminder. One of the things that I like about them as I'm older now, especially within the originals, is the message of the Force. And I find it's very simplistic and very authentic and life and real life, the message of the Force and the meaning of the Force versus the dark side, and how we're always kind of on that line. I always appreciate kind of the message as the movies go on and the Force is learned, how it's related, and how you can hear sort of that. Again, it applies to everyday life. And if you watch interviews and with George Lucas, he mentions that it's a very simple message, and he wanted it to be kind of relatable to everyday life, and ways that people can kind of draw from it, draw inspiration, and feel good for them about themselves. So as usual, Natty's trying to lure people to the dark side with cookies. To classic Natty. But it's that balance. So the Force, and I grabbed this I did my research. It was tough, but I did my research. I watched Return of the Jedi, or A New Hope, episode 4 the other night, just for you guys to make sure I got this right. So when they first kind of explain the Force, when Obi-Wan explains it to Luke, and if you only know the last 3 episodes, 7, 8, 9, go back and watch the other ones. Even the first 3. It's fun. It's a fun little series. So the Force It's the energy field created by all living things. It is all around us, and it binds the galaxy together. So if you hear some self-help or professional development people speak, you'll hear them talk about vibrations, the vibrations you create. Jack Canfield talks about that a lot. If you create the vibration of the affirmations or the things you're looking for, the things you're working towards, and that energy is created, and that's what sort of creates that pathway for you to work towards that goal. That's sort of what they're talking about there. And the force is the energy we all have within us, and we're all atoms. We're all created by different matter in a similar way. So again, I just thought it was something to reflect on and bring back. And we have the fun of Star Wars Day, and there's events, and people watch the movies, and people I used to work with will take the day off and have movie marathons to watch a bunch of them. And yeah, right, Natty, it's all about energy, and that's what we're all about here, and that's what we all need to be about. You get back what you give, for sure. And listening to some of the kind of newer interviews as they redid or kind of continued on the Skywalker saga, hearing them even see that there's that kind of reciprocation of the force and energy. Like Natty said, you get back what you put out. If you are a good person and kind, and you embrace that side of you, then you'll get that back, and you'll spend more time being one with the force, they call it. But if you flip the other way and you're not as kind and you're impatient and not so nice to people, that's getting over to the dark side and embracing the darkness. And if you have watched the movies, you know that's some of the struggles some of them have, especially in the first three with Anakin, trying to figure out what way do I want to be. Do I want to go to the dark side? Is it better? Will I be more powerful? Will this person like me more if I have all this power and can do all these things? Or should I stay on the good, on the force, and be able to help people and heal people and what we can deal with? And yeah, that's where we're kind of going with that too, is nice to yourself. If you're not nice to yourself, again, that's embracing that dark side, that negative side. That's the opposite of what we call here our force, is the positivity pandemic. We want to be nice to ourselves, and if we're nice to ourselves, treat ourselves good, again, we stay in that light, we stay in that good mindset, that good mental frame, that mental capacity, where then again we can share our good energy, our light, our positivity with those around us. But yeah, it starts from within. And again, if you've watched the movies, you know there's that internal struggle for all the main characters, really, of which way to go and who to align themselves with, what's going to give them the better life. And it really starts again with what they kind of believe in internally. But the message of that too is we're not always perfect. There's going to be times where we drift into the dark side. There's going to be times where we're more into the force and the light side. It's going to happen. We're people. We all have our moments. And again, if you watch those movies, all those people, even though they're super, some of them who are super positive and the force is the way, they have moments where feelings overtake them, things bother them, they self-doubt, and then that can turn on them and shift them into that dark side where they make poor decisions, and that creates poor consequences. And they have to work, that being the key, at coming back toward the force, toward the light, getting away from the dark side, from the negativity. So again, just reminders that we're all going to have our days. We're all going to have moments where we drift a bit to the dark side. But the idea and the skill we want to build is staying more in the light, more with the force. The Jedis, the ones that want the world to get along and to be peaceful and to create harmony and balance. And that was the prophecy within Star Wars. Those original, really the 9 now movies, was that there would someday be the ultimate person that would bring balance to the force, because there's always light and dark, and then there was someone who would balance it out and create that positivity. So think of you in your environments and your interactions and your galaxies. Um, are you bringing positivity? Are you being more with the force, or are you a little bit in the dark side lately? And again, we're all going to switch. We're all going to struggle. None of us are perfect. But again, just like anything else, it takes the work to get us to being more in the force and more positive. And it takes work to stay there as well. And it takes lots of work when we do drift into that dark side, because Nav's offered us cookies. And then we have to work harder to get back into that light. We have to work against that darkness and really focus on emitting that positivity again to ourselves and to those around us. So make sure that if you do have those days where maybe your feelings are a little down and you're maybe more toward the dark side, don't beat yourself up. Stay focused. Think of positivity. We talk about gratitude here. Practice some gratitude. Spend time with some good friends. Find something to make you laugh. Maybe take your mind off of things for a little bit, and work on those skills to bring you back toward the force and toward the lighter side of things. Well, it sounds good, Bonnie. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you on the replay. And what we want to do is, again, just like anything else, build up the system for us. We want to be as proactive as we can to maybe know when certain things are going to trigger us or, again, bother us, or when we're going to be really stressed at work or different things that are going on. Then maybe we need to be more proactive to make sure we're ramping up our self-care. We've talked here about how when things get difficult, typically our self-care is the first thing to go, because we divert that energy to other things. But if we can plan in advance and modify our self-care to at least keep it going, that will help us stay away from the dark side so much as we're trying to maneuver through some of these life obstacles, these daily battles that life hands us, as we see here, when we're trying to be operationally fit. So keeping in mind that it is work and it is something we should practice and be mindful of. And even now, if things are feeling good and you're thinking you're one with the force and are feeling great, that's amazing. But what can you do to maintain that? Or what can we do to be proactive instead of reactive, to know when some of those times are approaching that could pull us toward the dark side a little bit? And again, if we can be proactive and even just know they're coming and do a little bit of prep, then maybe we don't get pulled so far into that dark side, into the negativity. We don't get sucked into the gossip or the negative energy around us. Maybe we get a little bit, because again, we're not perfect. But if we're not so deep into it, not so far into it, then it's easier to get yourself out, right? If we're not so far down into so deep of a hole, it's easier to pull yourself out when times are better, when we can get back to that light side. See, it's all a process. And if you watch the movies, there's multiple teachers and mentors that Luke has in the 3 movies, and then Rey in the new versions, Anakin in the original. There's different mentors and teachers and people who try to help and guide from both sides. You think of the old analogy in cartoons of the angel and devil on your shoulder, and trying to decide which one to listen to, your good conscience and bad conscience. You'll have that, but then also externally, you could have that as well. People trying to maybe pull you in certain ways to get you to do the things they want to do, or to be part of them, because maybe they don't want you to do the things you want to do. Maybe they don't want you to have that success, or maybe they're just not in a place of using the force and in that light. Maybe they're just in a dark place. What we need to try to do, again, is not be totally sucked into that. And if we can, try to help them through that a little bit as well, and maybe get them back toward the light a little bit and help them feel a little better. And then again, they're not dealing with it. They're not going to try to pull us in so far. And we can both feel a little better about ourselves. And Natty shares here, I like that indigenous tale about the 2 wolves. We all have a good wolf and a bad wolf inside us. The one that wins is the one you feed. That's amazing. What a great analogy. So true. The one you feed is the one that wins. that's the one that's going to grow and get stronger and take over. What a great analogy that is. I haven't heard that one. Natty, thanks for sharing that. And same idea. We have light and dark, and that's the force is the force. It's the energy around us, like I read from the quote from Obi-Wan. But it's what type of energy you embrace and what type of energy you feed into that's going to take over. And again, if you look at the first 3 episodes, spoiler alert if you haven't seen them, Anakin struggles with that and eventually gives in to the dark side and feeds that dark energy and has people around him feeding that dark side to bring him in because they think he's the prophet that's going to bring balance and give them ultimate power. And then he eventually makes that turn to the dark side completely. Or does he? But again, he feeds that side. He embraces it when he's younger. He's more feeding the lighter side, but he has those moments where his anger gets him or his feelings kind of take over. And again, he starts to feed in, and people see that. People that want to take advantage of him start to feed into that for him. So again, you have to be careful of the 5 people you spend the most time with, like we talk about here. Self-talk, that we talked about, Natty mentioned earlier. Energy you give to yourself, and then that in turn will create the energy you give to others. So try to put yourself in those good environments. Surround yourself with those other Jedis or people who are one with the Force, so that again you can be around good energy, good people, supportive people who are going to help build you up, help keep you in that light, and not try to pull you into the darkness. But like anything else worth doing, it is going to take some work. And again, we're all going to have our days. So as usual, don't beat yourself up if you do have an off day. If you need that day, take it. But let's try to think of ways we can get ourselves out of those bad days, away from the darkness. And if we can try again to be as proactive as we can, the idea being we don't go so deep into that dark side, we can get out of it easier and have a system and an approach for us to help us either prevent us from going into it, hopefully, or again, maybe minimize how dark we get, but also to help us return from that as soon as we can and get back on track. Because we spend too much time in that dark side, that's going to affect our goals and our accomplishments and the things we're looking to accomplish throughout this year. So we want to get back on that wagon as soon as we can. But we talked about this during the pandemic as well, that if you need a day, sometimes you just need a day. Try to make sure it's not kind of an excuse or just a way to avoid things. But sometimes you're overtired, things aren't right, you just need a day. Take the day, do what you need to do. But again, try to keep yourself closer, if not totally, into that light side of the Force, even if you are having a day. Don't embrace it too much. Deal with it, cope how you need to. But again, take some time now while things are good, and hopefully they are for you, to build in a contingency plan. We've talked about that before here. Have systems in place. Think of things that uplift you. We talked about music last week, power songs, theme songs, uplifting songs, stories, funny shows, again, conversation with friends. Think of all those things and then have those systems in place, have those ideas in mind, have systems written down so that when you think, I'm not feeling quite right, what's missing? And it's almost like a checklist. You know what? I haven't been moving enough. I haven't been doing my exercises, my stretching. I haven't been going for my walks. That's probably going to affect your mood. Okay, let's get that activity that's missing. Let's get that back into some sort of routine again, or try our best to get consistent with that. So that'll help us, again, at least manage what we're feeling. My nutrition's off, or I'm not sleeping great. We can look at some of these things, right? I haven't talked to my friend from university for a while. Let's give them a call. Or I haven't spent quality time unplugged with my family. Maybe we should do that for a bit, have some good quality family time. Maybe I should get out into nature. You can have these things that help boost your mood and help you feel better and concentrate more. Then we can go through them, and you're not trying to figure out what's wrong with you. You can just put the strategies in place to help bring you out of that kind of position or that funk that you're in at that time. I just popped to our comments here. And then he says, yeah, if you strengthen yourself in your light, you won't fall to the dark side so easily, for sure. You won't fall, and if you do happen to fall, again, it's more of a shade. It's not super dark, so you can, again, it's easier to pull yourself out of that one. Awesome. And that's right. Yeah, they can try, but you'll be too strong. So the more you strengthen yourself, yeah, those people, those uh, Siths and people of the dark side that want to draw you in and pull you down won't be able to, because you'll be too strong if you strengthen yourself and put those strategies in place. And again, know what works for you, and know what doesn't work for you, so you can implement what does and avoid or minimize what doesn't, so that you can, again, try to keep yourself in that light side, that good side of the force, as much as possible. Right, Natty? Those Darths. She says, yeah. Darth Maul, Darth Vader, those guys. Darth Sidious. What a bunch of guys. So yeah, again, I think it's, again, as I've been getting older and watching the movies, I just appreciate that sort of realism that's sort of tied into the fantasy of the movies. The message, they're so good. And with May being Mental Health Month, I thought it was a nice time, and we'll chat some more about that as the weeks go on. But again, just not a simple way, but a straightforward way to approach it. None of this is easy, and we've said a couple times now, it takes work, but there's a simplicity to it. It's matter of fact. The more you can spend time in the light, that'll keep you in that area. If you spend time in the dark side, you're more likely to fall deeper and deeper into that dark area. So we want to try to minimize that as best we can, by, again, putting strategies in place and systems in place to help you, knowing what works for you. And sometimes we'll try things, won't work, will work. We make note of that, and we'll know for future what we can put into play when those darker times do come. And they will. That's going to happen. It's not if, but when, because we go through those ups and downs in our life. That's part of it. We have to be able to handle the downs, the dark side, as best we can, to spend more time and more quality of time with the light side of the Force, the Jedi side of the Force, as it were. So, again, great tie into what I thought, again, was at least a starting point of mental health, of trying to self-regulate as much as we can. Obviously, there's different circumstances, but the more we can self-regulate ourselves, and at least ramp up our self-care, if nothing else, we can manage what we're going through a little more efficiently. Again, we can keep ourselves maybe from getting too deep into the dark side. We can keep ourselves a little closer to the light, the good side of the Force. And if we see that, then we know we're kind of working towards that. So things like activity and our nutrition and our sleep, stress management, all those things tying together to create that a good atmosphere that we want to try to be in. And again, not that we're going to say is going to prevent totally or cure any of these things that we're dealing with. But if we can self-manage a little bit, then maybe things aren't so severe for us. And then maybe we don't get into that days and weeks or months of being in the dark side. Maybe it's just a day or two where, again, we're a little bit off, and everyone has that. But if we have the support around us and the systems for ourselves in place, then again, we can minimize how deep we go and draw ourselves out of that with a plan, and a lot sooner. And it's more of an even climb. It's not such an uphill climb as if we get too far into the dark side. Yeah, another great quote from A New Hope, from Obi-Wan Kenobi. He says, as they're having an epic battle, he says, "You can't win, Darth, because Darth Vader says you're too old, you're weak, I'm stronger than you, you can't battle me any like you used to." He says, "You can't win, Darth. If you strike me down, I shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine." And again, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it, okay. When Obi-Wan does get struck down, he becomes one with the Force. He disappears, body disappears, dies, but he becomes one with the Force. Then he's still able to help Luke, and Luke can tie into that Force from Obi-Wan. And then that's that ultimate connection as well. Chris, you're right. It was a long time ago. I forget where. I think it was in a galaxy far, far away. I believe was the location of that quote as well. But yeah, thanks, Chris. That's a great quote as well, and so true. Once that happens, that strength comes in, and Obi-Wan is still with Luke, helping him, and that force, that energy that Obi-Wan had. And if you've seen the first 3 episodes, you know what Obi-Wan is like, or even the Obi-Wan show, which I haven't seen yet, but I've heard great things about. You know that energy that Obi-Wan had, and then he can bring that around now, and Luke, because of the influence of Obi-Wan and now the presence of him, that energy in the Force, now he can grow and mature and have that backing of him, that support really of Obi-Wan behind him. Talking of light and dark, Natty reminds us to stay in the sunshine. For sure, vitamin D makes a huge difference. K-Man, welcome in, Chris, by the way. Mentions taking drops. So drops, vitamins, and vitamin D if you're not getting enough sunlight exposure. Help as well, because it's good for our immune system, our mood, our skin, things as well. Vitamin D has a lot of benefits for us. So if you find you're limited in your sunlight exposure, then yeah, maybe it is time to talk to someone and see if a supplement of some kind is best for you. But that can be a big help for us. We've talked about the kind of seasonal depression disorder, when winter's here and it's dark early and late in the morning. We don't have that sunlight and our moods tend to drop. It's cold. We're not getting outside as much. We're not in sunlight as much. Our moods, again, try to turn toward that dark side a little bit. We don't feel as energetic. We're not as optimistic. So that vitamin D can help that a little bit. And when it's spring, and well, not spring yet, but the way it's been lately, but typically spring into summer, there's more sunlight. We're outside more. We're connecting. So that, again, that energy all around us, which is the Force, that nature, people around us, it's all ramped up. So we feel better. So you can kind of see that again within yourself. And again, just think of times during the year or even during your life when things were busy, things were tough. Think of back to school when it was exam time, or all the projects were due at the exact same week. Remember when they always do that to us? That stress was there, and you'd be maybe a little more moody, not as kind, stressed out. You probably wouldn't self-care as much because you're trying to get all these assignments and projects and tests done. And you can see that you're slipping a little more into that dark side. And a lot of us would get sick after, because we try to push through and push and push. And then our body would just kind of shut down for a bit. You get sick. So we want to try to stay on that good side of the Force as much as we can to minimize the effects it has on our performance and just our overall quality of life. Just want to check back in with their comments here. Yeah. And he says, I love Star Wars, nerds. For sure. And I don't even think I'm a huge Star Wars nerd per se. Like I am one, but I know there's varying degrees, I guess, of it. But just a fan of it. And ever since, I can't even remember what got me into it. I just remember always loving it. So yeah, it's been, yeah, there's just different degrees, I guess, of it. But it's, again, just something that resonates with me, and I've always been a fan, like most of us are, of the good versus evil kind of story and how it goes. And then again, just as I have grown, hearing the education of the Force and the meaning of the Force, and how I'm like, that's everyday life. That's a realistic message woven into this story. And it's so great. I love the way they did that. And I think it's a great takeaway for people if you listen to the message of it, even if you don't really enjoy the films. That's a separate episode to talk about, but the message of it, again, is so applicable, I think. And again, if you watch interviews with some cast, and again, George Lucas, that was the meaning meant to be in the movies, was to take away that message of that, and just to take into daily life, to try to be one with the Force, beyond the light side, and not give into temptation and to the dark side that's there, like Natty with her cookies earlier. The more time we can be on the light side, then the more we're going to attract other people who are with the Force and on the light side. And again, that's that positivity pandemic again, that positive energy, that light spreading out around us. And the more light that's around us, the less chance there is of darkness to creep in, that dark side to come around for us. And that's what we want, to try to minimize the dark side as much as we can. So again, with some of our messages and coming off of chatting music last week, thought movies this week, May the 4th being tomorrow, and again, Mental Health Awareness Month. I thought it was a nice start and tie into, again, just to try to keep things as a simplistic approach for you. If you're dealing with things, good or bad, really, put those systems in place. Self-care is so important to at least, again, it may not prevent or cure or completely erase what you're going through, but if nothing else, it will help you manage what it is you're dealing with and how you're feeling. And again, that can make a big difference for a lot of us in our decision making and helping us take those next steps that are needed to stay with the force or to come out of the dark side and work towards being one with the force on the light side itself. So keep your heads up, chins up. Remember, if you ever need anything, need to talk, if you're dealing with things and just aren't sure really where to go, reach out, talk to someone, friend, family member, colleague, a pet. Pets are great listeners. They don't talk much, but they're great listeners. Sometimes just getting it out and off your chest can make a big difference. And if you're still not sure and things aren't really working out for you, then maybe look into that. That next step, find that help, therapist, counselor, someone that can listen, hear what you're saying, and then they life coach you. They try to help you either work through some of that or get to the root of it. So again, you can kind of move on through it, or again, look at things that maybe send you to the dark side and try to limit some of those or put replacement strategies in place to keep you closer to that light side and being one with the force. So hopefully this was a good reminder for you. Again, trying to tie some different elements in, and May the 4th day and mental health. Again, I thought it was a really nice kickoff to the month from our vantage point. And again, that reminder that things can be kind of a little just, I don't want to use the word easy, but just a simplistic approach. Sometimes, again, just like in the gym, we get too worked up in overcomplicating things. When sometimes the KISS principle, keep it simple, sweetie, works just fine. And at least is a starting point. We need to start somewhere. And usually we start simple, get a feel for things, and then we can add on complexity as we go. This is no different. If we can put some simple things in place, again, at least to manage what we're going through a little bit, maybe bring ourselves again from that red zone to a yellow zone, then again, we can make better decisions. We can get some good energy. We can get some good momentum going as we're moving forward to, again, help us get closer to that being one with the force, and the force is one with you. I like that, Nadia, our modified Keep It Simple Sith for this episode of PatFacts, our new KISS principle, or KISS Keep It Simple Jedi. We'll work on that one. But yes, keep it simple, Sith. Okay, we don't have to overcomplicate things. Little steps, simple steps, build that momentum, build that process. And again, reach out when you need to. Don't be afraid. Don't be ashamed. Reach out. Everyone needs somebody sometime. I think that's a song, at least from a commercial, but I think it's a song too. So don't be afraid. Reach out. Get the help you need. Find the support around you. It's there. Sometimes we just have to look for it and just ask for it, and it's there. People are willing to give it. Sometimes we just think, I don't want to bother them, or they don't need it because we don't see it. So reach out to your strong friends, even touch base this month, touch base tonight, reach out, see how people are, say hello. You could bring a smile to their face. You could bring them a little bit closer to the light side of the force, and that can make a big difference for them in their day and their week and in their month ahead. So that's it for tonight, gang. Thanks so much for being here. Nadia, I'm pretty sure I saw Disco Vinny's on, so you're going to start our raid from Twitch. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Again, if you're watching us in recordings, please comment. Let us know where you're tuning in from, any questions, and any input you have, any Star Wars references, or maybe what you do to stay on the light side of the Force and try not to join the dark side as it is. We'll see you back here next week, everyone. Have a great week. Remember that self-care is so important. And remember, always make yourself the priority you deserve to be by being operationally fit. And may the force be with you. Have a great night, guys.